What's up guys? Today we're going to be showing you how to install SuperATV's rear offset high clearance A-arms on this Polaris Ranger XP1000. So let's get right to it. So the first thing you're going to do is go ahead and remove your wheel and tire. Next, we're going to remove the cotter pin from our castle nut. Once we've removed our cotter pin, we're going to remove the 27mm castle nut. Now we're going to remove our brake caliper by removing the 2 bolts, securing it to the rear knuckle. Here's 1 bolt. So on this machine, we already have a set of SuperATV A-arms installed. So the way that the brake lines are going to be mounted is going to be just a little bit different. We're going to have some Allen headed fasteners. We're going to have to remove them. Your fasteners may be different. Then we're just going to take our brake caliper and slide it up out of the way. I like to stick it up on the frame in front of the clutch cover. So we're going to grab our hub, remove it, and set it aside. Then we're going to disconnect our knuckle from our upper A-arm as well as our lower A-arm. Now we're going to remove the lower. Now we're going to remove the hardware. Then we're going to remove our upper hardware. We'll take our knuckle and set it aside. So now we're going to go ahead and disconnect our sway bar link from our A-arm. Then we're going to disconnect our shock. Then we'll pick up on our A-arm. Remove our shock bolt, and the lower A-arm will kind of drop out. You'll want to watch your shock bushing, or your sway bar link bushing. So what we're going to do is go ahead and remove our hardware for our lower A-arm. Since we already have the correct tools in our hands, I'm going to go ahead and remove the upper A-arm hardware as well. Now we're going to remove the forwardmost lower A-arm hardware. Now that we have our nut removed, we're going to go ahead and remove the bolt and then remove the A-arm. Grab the arm, go ahead and remove it. Now we're going to remove the upper forwardmost A-arm bolt. We'll remove the nuts. Once you removed your hardware, go ahead and remove the A-arm. So now that we have both of our A-arms removed, what we're going to do is go ahead and remove the A-arm bushings from these arms and can transfer them over to our new arms. So what I like to do is take a screwdriver, get the wear plates out. Usually I can just kind of pry up on them a little bit. They come right out. And if you don't want to reuse your bushings, you can always pick up a set of bushings from SuperATV.com. So once you get your wear plates out, sometimes the actual sleeve will slide right out, sometimes it won't. You'll have to get a socket. So I'm going to grab a 10mm socket. I'm going to grab a 10mm socket and just tap the sleeve right out of the arm. So once you get your sleeves out, you got to get the actual bushing out. So what I like to do is take a big flathead screwdriver, stick it into the A-arm tube, angle it up, and you'll feel it tap the backside of the bushing. And you're just going to tap it right out. Got her. So the first thing we're going to do is take our bushing, tap it down into the arm. Take our socket. Just knock her in there as far as she'll go. Now we're going to take our sleeve and install it into the bushing. Take our socket. And we're going to take our wear plates, install them just like so. If they don't want to go in, what I like to do is just take a little bit of WD-40 or any kind of lubricant and put on the O-ring. And that helps them just slide right in. And we're just going to continue these same steps for both of our A-arms. So now we're going to grab two 90-degree Zerks and two straight Zerks. We're going to take the straight Zerks and install them into our pivot blocks. We're going to take the 90-degree Zerks and we're going to install them into the upper A-arm. So now we're going to take our lower A-arm and install it to the machine. Make sure our holes are lined up. Install our hardware. Sometimes you may have to get a rubber mallet to kind of tap the A-arm into place. Now we will take our upper A-arm and install it to the machine. And what we're going to do is go ahead and make sure all of our nuts are on all of our bolts. Make sure all your nuts are good to go. If these nuts have been removed more than once, then I highly recommend putting new nuts. Otherwise, you have the chance of a nut backing off, and that would be catastrophic to the machine. So now, once we have our arms installed to the machine, we're going to take our rear knuckle, slide it onto our axle, and then get it lined up with our lower A-arm. Take our bolt, slide it through, just like so. So as we lift our A-arm up, we want to make sure that we have our sway bar link bushing installed. And get your shock and everything lined up, pull it all up into place. And then take the lower portion of your sway bar link bushing that has the nut on it and go ahead and install it. We're going to take it and just get a couple threads started on it. So now we're going to pick up on our lower A-arm until our shock lines up with our shock tab. Once we have everything else connected, what we're going to do is grab our upper A-arm, drop it down onto our knuckle, slide the hardware in. Like so. We'll put our nuts on and then fully tighten all the hardware up to this point. Now we're going to take our hub, slide it onto the axle and into the knuckle. We'll install our axle washers, castle nut, fully tighten it until it lines up, and take your cotter pin, drop it through. Ours is in decent shape. It is a good idea, if yours is not in good shape, to go ahead and replace it. Now we're going to grab our brake caliper. Get it slid onto the brake rotor. Fully tighten your brake caliper hardware. Make sure you get it good and tight. So now we're going to grab our brake line hardware that comes in the kit. We'll have 6 clips. We're going to need 3 per side, and then 6 Allens. We'll need 3 of those per side as well. So now we're going to take a brake line clip, slide it over the brake line, line it up with the threaded hole in the A-arm. Once you get it good and started, move on to the next one. Now we're going to reinstall our wheel and tire. So as you can see, we have our arms all installed. The next thing we're gonna do is lower it down on the ground and check the camber. That's one awesome thing about these SuperATV high clearance rear offset arms for this Ranger, is that they are completely adjustable. So on the lower A arm, you have a pivot block. That pivot block can be threaded in or threaded out to accommodate your needs on whether you need to camber in or camber out. So you can go negative or positive. All you have to do is rotate those pivot blocks. If you're on a stock application, these arms are going to be good to go out of the box for you. You're not going to have to make any camber adjustments. If you do, it's going to be minute. So what we're going to do now is repeat all these same steps for the opposite side. We'll sit it down on the ground, we'll check our camber. We'll be right back with you. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to roll the machine out. I typically like to just hop in the machine, fire it up, move it back and forth a couple times and make sure the suspension is settled. And then we're going to check the camber. So what I have here is just a straight edge that we've cut, and then I have an angle finder. So what I like to do is zero it out and then lean it in to touch the top of the tire. And it looks like we're about 1.5 negative. So in order to correct that, what we're gonna have to do, so essentially the bottom of our tire is kicked out, the top's kicked in. So that means our lower A-arm is too long. So for every 2 360-degree rotations of our pivot block, that's going to equal 1 degree of camber change. So we're at 1.5. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a full 2 rotations. It's going to make it 1 degree, and then we're going to make 1 360-degree rotation. So we're going to make 3 360-degree rotations total, and that's going to get us to 0. Typically on a machine like this, something that's running a smaller tire, I like to get everything set to 0. You know, this isn't something that we're going to be racing or doing any kind of high-speed riding with. So having the camber set to 0 is going to be perfectly acceptable. So now we're going to lift the machine back up, pull the lower arm off, make our adjustments, and get it sat back down on the ground and check it out again. All right, so now we're going to remove our lower arm. You all should know how to do it. You just did it yourselves. So we're just going to roll right through it for you. So now we're going to make our rotations. We're going to make our adjustment on our pivot blocks. So I always like to use the grease zerk as the indicator as our start and stop point. So this will be 1, 2, 3. So obviously on your all's machine you may not have to make this many adjustments, or you may not have to make any adjustment at all. Every machine's a little bit different. It all depends, and like I said, every 2 360-degree rotations is equal to 1 degree. Once you have all your hardware tightened, you've got your arms installed on both sides, camber's all set, everything's good to go. That's all there is to it to install SuperATV's rear offset high clearance arms on this Polaris Ranger XP1000. Be sure to check the description below for a link to pick yours up today, and while you're there, drop a like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.